One of the trickiest dynamics that we have to navigate in this culture as women are power imbalances. You know what I'm talking about. Anytime you've been in a room where someone has control and yet you're supposed to feel grateful to be there. Or when you've ever had to make yourself small in order to ask for access to something that you really need. Money, time, connection. You know what I'm talking about. If you've ever been taken advantage of by someone in power, you know what I'm talking about. Now, for women, the dynamic is that we need to play small or be subservient or give up our power in the face of someone with a greater sense of perceived power. But that is incredibly dangerous. Whether it's dangerous on a small emotional, psychological level, or whether it's dangerous on a grand physical and communal level, it's dangerous. What I'm really talking about here is a differential. Okay, a difference in power is okay. A difference is natural. So for example, there is a difference in power between a student and a teacher, a coach and a client, sometimes even a man and a woman in partnership. And that reflects a different role, a different experience, or a different perspective. The student does go to the teacher to learn. They have the wisdom. But the teacher doesn't take advantage of the student or withhold the wisdom. The coach helps the client get better, and the client is emboldened by the coach's training and structure, but the coach doesn't take advantage of the client by locking down that structure and training in order to control the client's life. The man and woman might have differences in their relationship in terms of defining the roles that they choose in relationship, but one role isn't forced upon another in order to put the other off balance or be controlled. So when it's a role, an experience, or a perspective, the differences are okay. When we have a differential, we have a difference in power. That's power over. Those are structural or energetic gaps that actually create inequality. And when we have inequality, we have devaluation, dismissal, and sometimes even destruction. If one person holds access, that access is denied, then the other person is always going to feel left out or left behind. When one person holds access to resources, knowledge, or even emotional safety, and the other doesn't, Houston, we have a problem. As long as there is transparency, if someone has access, let's say, to finances, for example, you work, your boss has access to the finances. As long as there's transparency there, as long as those finances are released on the appropriate payday in the appropriate way, that can foster trust. So again, power differences can be okay where there's trust, mutuality, respect. Differentials is where the control becomes a problem. That's when you get exploitation, withholding, or even domination. We see this in many different areas of our life, and especially as women. We've been taught even sometimes when we're being exploited, when we're being withheld from, that we're locked into that place and we should be grateful for whatever little drippings we get. You know that you're in an imbalanced power differential if you feel beholden to the person. You won't get your money unless you show up for work. They won't offer love unless you give yourself away and subjugate your needs. You won't have a job unless you show up earlier than everyone else. If you feel beholden, you're in a differential. If you feel anxious, afraid to speak your mind or talk about your needs because they might withhold or retract resources, you're in a differential. It's a power imbalance. This is a controlling dynamic. If you're being minimized or ignored, or there's no clear pathway to reciprocity, you're in a differential. Differentials are a problem. Now, I just finished watching a really amazing show about a sports team of women who were in such a power imbalanced dynamic that they gave their entire lives away nearly for free just to be grateful to be a part of the organization. I worked for decades in an industry that told me I should be grateful to just show up and teach with no compensation needed. This is a subjugation trap that I think women have more of a challenge with based on cultural training throughout a long period of history. Look, anybody can be caught in a power imbalance or differential. I'm calling it out for women because my work is to help women become empowered. That's what I do through my book, The Way of the Satisfied Woman, and through my online membership, which you can find at thesatisfiedwoman.com. When you join the Rooted membership, we work on getting you more empowered. Empowerment means being sovereign. It means that you're calling the shots, that there's no more performance in order to get access to the resources you need, which might even just be being close to someone or seeking their approval. For example, if you've ever been a woman dating a man who has more money than you, his withholding means you might abandon your own desires in order to keep that kind of financial security. That can work in the reverse too, by the way, ladies. If we're a client and we idolize our coach, we might suppress our own intuition, our intuition that says, no, we don't need to stay late. No, we don't need to stretch more, because we believe they have the power over us. If we have a spiritual teacher who uses mystique to avoid accountability, we've been there. Patriarchy normalizes this power imbalance, and we are actually trained to stay small, grateful, and pleasing in the face of authority. We're taught to confuse hierarchy with value. And many of us have unhealed wounds around this, seeing patriarchal figures, fatherly figures, as having the means and the access and the control that we need in order to just survive. But that's not truly feminine. The feminine actually thrives in safety and cherishing, not in control and hierarchy. So what we need really is a reframe. We need a restructure. So instead of this hierarchical one step over the other, we need equality. And it doesn't mean we have to be the same. Remember, differences are okay. Students can learn from teachers who aren't withholding. Clients can learn from coaches who aren't controlling. Men and women can be in relationship with transparency. True power includes difference, but it protects, it uplifts, and it empowers. It sees the value, the equal value in both partners in the relationship, whatever the relationship is, whether it be romantic, business, spiritual. If one partner has more of something, they share, they invite, they include, and they serve the other. In my work, I help women rebuild the trust in themselves and others so they can feel the difference, the power in the difference in their bodies, not just in their minds. The critical piece here really for us to stay in our feminine sovereignty, for us to own our empowerment, even if we are seeking access or seeking education or seeking connection, is to stay in tune with our intuition. Our intuition is like an internal spidey sense that will always go off when a differential is present and not serving us. So to stay in tune with our intuition is to know that we're safe and that we're valued. We want to ask ourselves regularly if we feel safe, if we feel seen, if we feel empowered, or if we feel small, unsure, or if we're overperforming to get what we need. That is a critical trap. We need to tune into our intuition so that we understand what our true no is and that we can issue it. And also what our true yes is. Because wouldn't it be nice to be in relationship, an equal relationship, even where there are differences, where access is freely given, where connection is freely shared, where resources are offered with transparency. Differences are okay. Differentials are not. So if this hits home for you and you've been caught in a power imbalance, whether it's in love, business, or leadership, I want you to know that you are not broken. You are waking up. And you are waking up right alongside all of the other satisfied women that I work with either in my private coaching or inside my membership space, Rooted. Rooted is a sacred space for just this kind of reclamation, and I want to invite you in. There's a link below with a special code to get a discount off of your first month, or you can always book a private clarity call with me to talk through exactly what you are working through. Let's get you equal. Let's get you sovereign, and let's create more satisfaction in your everyday life.